Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and here on my channel I make crystal and geology videos, so if that sounds interesting be sure to subscribe because I put out new videos every week. Today's video is going to be really scary because it's Halloween. Happy Halloween. I'm dressed up as Oracle. I dressed up as her last year for my Halloween video as well, and when I put on the cat ears for the first time she hissed at me and was really scared of me, and then I put them on today and she was giving me a funny look. Like, she wasn't hissing this time, but I was like, what's her problem? And then I was like, oh yeah, she hates when I dress up as a cat. So last year's Halloween video, I made a video all about spooky and dangerous minerals, like things that are radioactive and have dangerous elements in them. And this year's Halloween video is scary, but in a different way, because we're gonna be looking at the scariest and worst fake crystals. And they're scary because they're ugly, in my opinion. This video is just for funsies. I'm going to be going through some of the worst fakes that I see on the crystal market. Some of these I have talked about before in other videos, some of them are totally new. And just a disclaimer, there's nothing wrong with most fake crystals. And if you like these, then that's perfectly fine. There are some positives to lab-grown man-made crystals, such as reducing environmental impact, avoiding sketchy mining practices, and affordability. But the problem comes in when these fake or lab-grown crystals are being sold as authentic, natural, out-of-the-ground stones when they're not. They've been altered or completely man-made. I like to call these out so that buyers are not being deceived and thinking they're buying something natural and authentic and rare when it's really kind of sometimes just a piece of garbage. I'm not going to go into a super ton of detail on each one and how to tell it's fake and how the real comparisons. I'm kind of going to go through them pretty quickly, so if there's anything you'd like me to elaborate on in a separate video, let me know. Let's start off with the only one on this list that is actually genuinely scary and dangerous, and that is the fake malachite smoking pipe. Or any of these crystal pipes for that matter, but specifically the fake malachite one is real spooky. So cute. These crystal pipes, especially the ones made of synthetic materials, are extremely dangerous and you should never use these. If you sell these or own one and use it, I would highly recommend that you reconsider. Inhaling any mineral, even minerals that don't have toxic elements, is extremely dangerous, and that's why it's important to always wear protective gear and equipment when cutting, polishing minerals, because even something that seems as innocent as like clear quartz, like what could possibly be wrong with clear quartz? Well, quartz contains silica, and inhaling silica is extremely dangerous. Inhaling silica dust and other mineral particles can lead to scarring and inflammation in your lungs that can lead to silicosis, lung disease, and lung cancer. And all of this is from inhaling natural mineral particles, just like silica. But many of these pipes are made from synthetic man-made materials with who knows what kind of chemicals in them. And some minerals do contain toxic elements, like bumblebee jasper contains arsenic, pyrite contains metals that can be toxic, and I have seen lapis lazuli pipes that do contain pyrite. And serpentine is made up of fibrous crystals that are literally asbestos. There is no safe way to use one of these crystal pipes, and if you have one, I would just recommend keeping it as decoration only. Do not use this. You do not want to be breathing in crystal dust, especially not heated synthetic malachite going directly into your lungs. I can't even imagine. It sounds horrible. Similarly to fake malachite, we have purple malachite. I showed this material in my recent camerite video, and I didn't think it was a popular material since I had only seen it one time years ago, and that was when camerite was kind of new and poppin' on the market. So I assumed it was trying to be camerite, but upon further research, I realized some of this synthetic material is being sold as purple malachite. It definitely looks like it was made in the same way that synthetic malachite was made. It has the same look to it, just different colors. I also saw other colors like rainbow and yellow being called synthetic malachite, or just like yellow malachite. Many times this material is labeled as synthetic, like synthetic yellow malachite, synthetic purple malachite. So no hate to any shops that do sell this material if it is labeled as synthetic. There's nothing wrong with selling synthetic stones as long as it's labeled as such. But my question is, why are we even calling this malachite at all? Synthetic malachite obviously is trying to resemble natural malachite, but then once we get into purple and yellow and rainbow, and it's not real, I don't think we need to call it malachite anymore, but that's just my personal gripe. I had to go get a blanket to put on my lap so that Oracle could go under the blanket and burrow in it. She's making biscuits right now in my lap because she only likes to sleep under blankets. and she was really trying to get cozy on my lap, and I just didn't have anything for her to snuggle with, so we're making biscuits now. Similarly to fake malachite, we have fake rhodochrosite. Basically the same thing as the synthetic material we just talked about, except this one is posing as rhodochrosite, and I don't see this nearly as often as I see fake malachite. I usually see it in beads, cabochons, and other small little carvings. In my opinion, I feel like this is pretty easy to tell that it's not genuine rhodochrosite. It's very just flat looking. There's no texture, there's no depth, and it's going to be really cheap compared to if authentic rhodochrosite had this bright pink color. It would be pretty pricey, but usually these are very cheap. And while we're on the topic of rhodochrosite, I sometimes see this material being called blue rhodochrosite. This material is known as blue scheelite on the market, but it's actually mostly calcite and dolomite. Doesn't really usually contain any scheelite at all, and it's definitely not rhodochrosite. Next up, we have a material known as ruby epidote, sometimes just ruby or honeycomb ruby. This material is cheaply lab grown, and it is not natural ruby. This is also not epidote, so I'm not sure why the name epidote is sometimes attached to this material. Epidote can sometimes very rarely be red, but it really doesn't look anything like this. This material is made from aluminum oxide, which is what ruby is made of, but this is entirely lab-grown, man-made. I've seen this material literally being sold for $4 a kilogram, so it is clearly not authentic ruby, which is a much more expensive stone, especially if you were getting a piece of this size. I'm not even sure you could get a ruby this size, big enough to cut it into towers and to sell it for $4 a kilo. You can see an authentic material like ruby and zoisite or ruby and fuchsite. If there's a significant amount of rubies, especially bigger rubies, the material can be pretty expensive, and that's not even just solid ruby on its own. If you get a big chunk of genuine authentic ruby, it's gonna be pretty expensive, and it honestly doesn't even look much like this material at all. And trigger warning for trypophobia, fear of little holes. Some of this ruby material is very spooky looking, the honeycomb ruby. Again, if you like the look of this material, that's perfectly fine. It is made of aluminum oxide. It is a crystal, but it's just not genuine from the earth. Next up, we have these lab-grown geodes. These geodes are lab-grown to resemble genuine minerals like rutile and dumortierite. Real rocks can even be used as the outside material for these geodes, but then the inside, the needle-like crystals, those are the lab-grown part. So I have seen these created out of real rocks, but they can also be created out of lab-grown rocks with a lab-grown geode inside, such as this horrible monstrosity, the ruby, the lab-grown ruby with the fake lab-grown needles inside of it. These can come in many different colors, but just be on the lookout for this needle-like crystal structure. And of course, genuine authentic minerals can form needle-like crystals, but it doesn't usually look quite like this. And these aren't even necessarily cheap either, even though they're cheap to produce. Okay, time to get serious for a second, because this is something I wanted to talk about that's been bothering me for a while now, but I don't want to be like a hater, and I don't like calling out specific brands or specific people's products, and I'm still not going to use their name, but I want to talk about this one specific brand. I keep getting ads for it all over the place, and it has been bothering me, and it just contributes to a bigger problem of the fake crystal bracelet epidemic. Like, it's out of control. So I went through this brand's website, and I definitely have some issues, and I don't want to be rude. I don't want to seem like a hater, but these are just some concerns I have, and I think they should be brought up so that people are on the lookout and can be informed buyers. So some of their product photos I can tell are not genuine crystals, but they also don't quite look like fake or man-made crystals either. Like, I feel like a lot of these product photos are AI generated. Like, it finally just hit me today after looking at them for so long that this is probably AI generated. For example, this malachite bracelet, I can tell that this is not real malachite. There's something weird about it, but it also does not look like synthetic malachite beads. Personally, I despise AI. I hate using AI in business. I will never put any AI anything into my business, but that's just my personal preference. People are allowed to use it, but I do think it's deceitful to use it in your product photos. If that's what's going on, this is just my speculation. I also see some false advertising here, allegedly. On every listing, it is claimed that these products are made with 100% natural stones. However, they're selling things like pink and rainbow tiger's eye, which are not 100% natural stones. Pink and rainbow tiger's eye are not naturally occurring. They've been dyed. They could be made based off of authentic tiger's eye that have been dyed, or they could be totally man-made. But even if they've been dyed, that's not 100% natural stone. It should be disclosed that this has been dyed. And these potentially AI generated images show pink tiger's eye or rainbow tiger's eye as if it's a natural stone. Like, these photos make it look like this is how the stone came. In reality, it doesn't even look like this at all. So these false images, along with the claim that it's 100% natural and they're being portrayed as naturally occurring stones, I think that's super deceitful and I don't like it at all. And some of these bracelets and other products contain materials that are completely man-made based on what I'm seeing in the photo. For example, on this chakra bracelet, I can tell for 100% sure that the yellow and the green beads are not natural stones. The description also doesn't say what these stones are supposed to be, which I guess that's just my personal preference, but I would like to know as a buyer what the stones are. But I can tell that these aren't real stones, and I'm not sure what they're supposed to be replicating because there's no description. And because there's no reviews on this site, I can't see what people are actually receiving in the mail. Like, maybe the product photos are AI generated, but they are 100% natural stones that the customers are receiving. I have no way of knowing. On this chakra bracelet, it is also claimed that these are 100% natural stones, and literally nothing on this is a natural stone that I can see. This looks very fake, very artificial. Nothing in here resembles a natural crystal. And again, maybe if you order it, you would receive natural crystals, but based on this photo, it's just a lie. There are also bracelets of the material blue moonstone. What's that? Also pink chalcedony, which can be a real thing, but it's not really very common, and it's not a common material to be found in bracelets. So I'm wondering, is this like a pink glass bead? And I only call out this brand specifically because I feel like it's just a little extra deceitful and tricky and has some suspicious marketing. And I just see these ads all the time that is just bothering me seeing these. So I don't mean to be a hater and call out this brand specifically, but it seems like they're making a lot of sales under the guise that these are natural crystals, and they are potentially not, which does irk me and bother me, and I don't want people to be scammed. But this brand is far from the only example of suspicious beads on the crystal market. They are all over Etsy and even in reputable shops. I think the most common one I see is called Imperial Jasper or Sea Sediment Jasper. This is definitely fake. There may be some bits of authentic stone in here, but it's artificially colored at the very least, if not completely fake. It comes in just about every color. I have seen some sea sediment jaspers maybe be authentic, like they're kind of like an ocean jasper, but I would just stay away from anything imperial jasper, sea sediment jasper, anything with a crazy color and that like crackly appearance. Those are a little iffy. Here's another one that really stuck out to me when I was looking at beads on Etsy, which is A grade lapis lazuli blue tiger's eye. What's that? I mean, looking at the material, it seems like it is just lapis lazuli colored tiger's eye, which means it's been dyed. AAA grade used to actually mean something. It used to mean like, you know, the highest quality. But terms like this are just basically meaningless these days because they're thrown around and used so willy-nilly. Like, really, what is A grade? It doesn't mean anything anymore. I also saw many beads on TikTok Shop that seemed to be advertised as authentic crystals, but are definitely not. For example, this marshmallow jade. This material is usually known as morganite on the market, but I don't believe it to be real morganite. I'm fairly certain it's a real stone, probably dyed or enhanced in some way, maybe low-grade morganite. I'm not 1000% sure, but it's definitely not jade. And you know, I like the name Marshmallow Jade. I think that's cute, but it's not jade, so it's just not true. Another example is these multicolored hematite beads. They may be hematite underneath, but they are at the very least coated with something, if not entirely fake. It's hard to tell if it's a genuine stone underneath just by looking at the picture, but I would assume it's probably just fake, and it's called hematite because it's metallic and resembles hematite, but hematite doesn't naturally come in these fun colors. And also blue fairy agate. Again, I love the name. It may be a real stone, but it is definitely dyed. In my opinion, these beads are really pretty. I actually think the names are really fun, and these would look really great in jewelry. Just make sure you are knowledgeable that the material is either dyed, enhanced, or man-made. It just makes it tricky when words like agate, jasper, hematite, jade are thrown around to make it seem like it's a natural stone, and it may or may not be. Be very careful if you're looking to buy beads and do a lot of research on what authentic crystals look like before buying any beads or bracelets, because this is where the biggest amount of fakes come from, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Like, by far, when it comes to fake crystals on the market, beads are the problem. There's nothing wrong with synthetic stones, dyed stones, glass beads. Just don't try to portray them as an authentic from the ground mineral. Next up, we unfortunately have another big scam to discuss, and this is something I just learned about, called Andara crystals. There seems to be a lot of claims about the healing properties of these crystals, such as they've been on the earth since the beginning of civilization. They're the highest vibrational crystal. They have mysterious origins. They have strong healing properties, etc. Sellers claim that this is a glass-like, naturally occurring material found in specific mineral deposits across the US. Unfortunately, this is a huge scam. This is literally just colored glass. It is honestly kind of just garbage, likely just leftover slag glass from factories. It is not found in nature, 100%. Not natural. It is not found in mineral deposits. It is not found in certain rock formations. This is totally a lie. There can be naturally occurring glass like obsidian, but obsidian does not look like this. And these colors are honestly just silly to try and claim that this is natural, found in certain rock deposits. This is just like the blue obsidian material that people claim is naturally occurring. It's just glass, and it can be pretty, you know. Some people like glass crystals as decoration, sea glass, but you should not be paying thousands of dollars for a piece of glass when people are telling you that it has magical properties, it's rare, it's mysterious, it's man-made garbage. And I feel bad for anyone who has bought into the scam of this and paid thousands of dollars for this. And if you believe that it does have healing properties and high energy, then that's great. You can still work with it if you feel that energy with it. But you have to know that it's not authentic. It's not a genuine crystal. Next up, we have purple Mojave turquoise. This material is very common in beads, cabochons, and other jewelry. Like many of the fake stones we've talked about, it is very beautiful, but this color is not natural. For this material, natural turquoise is taken and dyed purple and fused with bronze to create a composite. It makes the material harder and easier to work with. In theory, this material uses natural Kingman turquoise. However, I'm sure there are fakes out there that don't contain any turquoise at all, but ideally it does contain genuine turquoise, but it has been dyed and altered. This material is super pretty. I would even buy it, use it, make my own jewelry with it. Just be aware that it's not coming out of the ground looking like this. Next up is a material that I've talked about many times, but this list would not be complete without it because it truly is scary. These are lab-grown clusters. I feel like they've fooled many people because they do kind of resemble natural clusters. They're definitely better at imitating a natural crystal than those needle-like geodes that I showed you, but these are diabolical. They come in just about every color. Sometimes they're aura coated. They all look like they've been like created in a muffin tin because they're like round at the bottom. I saw them in person at the Tucson Gem Show, and they're all just like the same size as if they were made in little cups. These ones specifically crack me up because they just have a random yellow crystal in the middle, and like all of them have a random yellow crystal in the middle. I'm just not understanding the vision for that because it doesn't look real. Personally, I find these to be very ugly and bothersome. These are a jump scare every time I see them. Sometimes they're also very expensive, even though they're definitely cheap to produce. But anything that looks like this is lab grown. Unfortunately, fake moldavite is still out there on the market. And even after all these years, there is still the fake, plasticky, poorly made moldavite being sold out there. Beware of a suspiciously vibrant green, glassy texture, and cheap price when looking to buy moldavite. I have a video all about moldavite if you'd like to learn more on what to look for when buying it and how to tell fakes. I don't think I've ever talked about this material before, so this seems like as good of a time as any. This material on the market is called terahertz, and it is man-made. This is made up of silica, and if you feel it in person, it is very lightweight. So in person, it definitely can't be confused for any other material like hematite. Even though it may look similar in metallic, it's very lightweight. Personally, I actually like terahertz. I find it to have a nice protective energy. I do sell it in my shop. I have it in my protection sets, but Again, it's important to disclose that this is a man-made material. We all know about the common dyed stones like the dyed agates, the dyed amethyst, but there are a couple more newer, rare ones that I'd like to point out that you should be on the lookout for. The first up is dyed flower agate. I have seen this dark blue dyed flower agate material. I think it also comes in purple. Natural flower agate has a very muted and light natural color, and it doesn't come in any of these crazy saturated colors naturally. There is also green flower agate, which is generally accepted as natural and authentic on the market. I will say though, I do have some suspicions about the green flower agate on if it's 100% natural or if it's been enhanced in some way. I have some suspicions just based on some pieces I've bought in the past. I do love this material. I think it's so beautiful. I feel like there is some that is definitely natural, but there's also some that are definitely dyed. These are some examples of ones that are for sure dyed. We also have dyed moonstone, which is a new one I had not seen until recently. I was looking on TikTok shop to see what kind of interesting new materials were out there, and I saw a bunch of moonstone being dyed pink, purple, green, blue, whatever, being sold as natural. This definitely looks like it's authentic moonstone. I think it's like, it looks like the material known as belomerite, but it has that saturated artificial fake dye color to it. Moonstone does not naturally come in any color that looks like this. And also we have dyed carnelian moss agate. There is natural material that is carnelian and moss agate combined, but this material specifically, unfortunately, has confirmed to be dyed. It is just a regular moss agate material that has been infused with red to make it look like it's something more special than it is. This one is kind of a one-off thing, but again, when I was looking through TikTok shop, I saw this emerald tower. Based on the photo, this is definitely man-made, probably resin or glass. A big giveaway that this is fake and man-made is the streaks of gold throughout. I see this often with man-made materials, mostly in beads. I'll see little streaks of gold, and that's just my giveaway that it's been created. This tower is actually really beautiful, but it's definitely not emerald. It's emerald colored, but it is not a emerald and it is not a natural stone. This is another material that I've talked about a lot. I have a whole video about it. There are a couple new developments about it, and that's the material known as sphalerite. The name sphalerite has basically just become a trade name for anything that is druzy. The original material that was named sphalerite on the market when it first came out was confirmed to be not sphalerite, but like a mix of fluorite and quartz, I think it was. But this has evolved. But since I made that original video, the term sphalerite has really evolved to encompass more materials. These days, anything that is kind of gray in color and has druzy crystals is called sphalerite. Most of the material called sphalerite today is just quartz or chalcedony druzy. The real mineral sphalerite is a metal, and it looks really nothing like material that's trade named sphalerite. And lastly, let's end with a laugh. I saw this listing on TikTok shop for beautiful crystal tower for $39. The seller is definitely a wholesale seller from China, which isn't a bad thing, but you are clearly not going to be getting this extremely beautiful and probably very expensive mineral specimen for $39 on TikTok shop. It's also not even a tower, it's like a cluster or a specimen, but that's besides the point at this point. And I wonder what you would actually get if you did purchase this. I wonder if it's like a placeholder listing for something else. It says some were sold, so I wonder what the person actually got if they bought that. I should check the reviews because I'm dying to know what you get if you actually purchase this listing. And you know, something that kind of irks me a little bit when it comes to fake crystals in the crystal community as a whole is that some people just claim that a certain mineral is commonly faked when it really isn't. This crystal is so easy to fake with resin, yet they don't mention that the fake crystals that are made with resin really don't resemble the natural ones at all. People love to claim minerals like rose quartz are most often faked on the market. You really gotta look out for the fake ones because they're just everywhere. But the reality is that many minerals, especially like low to medium quality materials like a regular rose quartz or regular labradorite, tiger's eye, are very abundant, accessible, and affordable to produce. It is often cheaper just to get the genuine material than to try and artificially create it in a lab. Some crystals like labradorite, moonstone, tiger's eye, amethyst, fluorite, etc., they just can't easily be recreated in a believable way. It would just look fake. Like there are some things you just can't replicate, like the stripes and chatoyancy in tiger's eye, the flash of labradorite, the colors in fluorite. You can't just like whip that up in a lab and it's gonna be indistinguishable from the authentic stone. They usually look pretty bad. When there's so much fear-mongering around fake crystals and people just claiming that they're everywhere, watch out, they're so easy to fake, it gets really confusing to people who are not super familiar with crystals, and it makes people nervous to buy anything because they're afraid it could look so real but be fake. In reality, the vast majority of crystals on the market are authentic. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, fake crystals aren't even as big of an issue as mislabeling is, which is when one mineral is being labeled as another mineral, but it's still authentic. But fake lab-grown things, not super common, not super real and believable looking. Definitely don't let the fear of fake crystals stop you from purchasing crystals or getting into it. It may seem confusing and overwhelming not knowing what's fake and what's real, but with a little bit of experience, you will get used to it and they'll be really easy to spot. So that's everything I have for you today about spooky, creepy, ugly fake crystals. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you didn't get too scared. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more crystal and geology content. I also have a crystal shop, Cosmic Geology, linked down below. I have lots of crystal art and jewelry for sale. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.